It's top of the pops!
Some estimates put the figure as high as 100,000.
This is it. Live or die.
Are making their first television appearance in Britain on Ready, Steady, Go. Here they are with their big hit number, I Get Around, the Beach Boys.
In the 1960s, the world was changing. The flower power movement was in full swing. The Beatles were king of the pops. Fashion was somewhat different. And dancing was just dancing. Meanwhile, Ford released its new Escort car. Miniskirts were all the rage. The Americans were at war with Vietnam. And everyone was protesting. And then in 1968, I was born. But 1 year later, something even more spectacular happened that would change the world forever.
All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
Okay, we got a roll program.
Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
But was it? Was it really? Well, the human race has made amazing leaps and bounds when it comes to technology and the achievements made in science. But nothing stands out being more impressive than that of the ability to send man into space and that of the moon landings. To get to the moon, you have to travel just under 250,000 miles, which takes about 3 to 4 days travelling at approximately 25,000 miles an hour, which is round about 7 miles per second, which, to be honest, is only a tad faster than my wife's Ford Ka. To lift a rocket off into space, it takes about £8.8 million of thrust, depending on the rocket. That is the equivalent to the power made by 40 747's passenger planes. But before you can do this, you need some help from some extremely intelligent ladies and gents to figure out how to get the damn thing off the ground and which fuels to use. Well, since I don't know any extremely intelligent people, I thought I'd leave some of this for you to research personally. Because that is what the internet is for, and if you look around, there's actually an abundance of information on the subject. The only problem is, which version of events do you believe? Did we actually go to the moon, or was this all faked? Well, according to NASA, the answer is yes, we did actually land on the moon. And to achieve this amazing feat, the computer that they used was 1,300 times less powerful than the iPhone 5, and the price for the whole program cost a whopping $25.4 billion, which is about, $152 billion in today's money. Well, obviously, that money was well spent, because the computer that they installed didn't crash, and they actually managed to fit it into the spacecraft, despite computers at the time being as big as houses. But nevertheless, this piece of equipment managed to guide them into space, through the Van Halen radiation belt, keep them in touch with the Earth, kept life support system working, monitored the fuel and the speed that they were travelling, and then landing them on the moon safely before taking them off again. Which is amazing, because my ZX Spectrum was constantly crashing and certainly couldn't multitask and took forever to load, and this was just over a decade later. Okay, I might be being a bit facetious, but there are a lot of questions that people are asking, and some of them are really relevant. Now, the biggie for me is, why is there no blast crater under the module where it landed, or any dust particles? Because according to NASA, the lunar module fired its descent rocket in order to control its landing. Now I'm pretty sure if it was falling to the surface at an extremely fast rate, which in turn would need some serious power to help it land, would it not? So if that is so, where is the crater? Where is the dust? One other thing that I'm curious about is why are there no stars in the background? Especially when, according to NASA's logs, Collins, who was one of the astronauts, states the sky is full of stars just like the nights on Earth. Yet when you look at the photos I took of NASA's own website, which are all perfectly exposed by the way, there is nothing but black sky. And not to mention, how did we go from images like this to images like this? Well, this all seems a bit strange to me and I could go on and on, but like I said before, you can actually look all this up yourself online. But why would America want to pull off such a big hoax? Well, at the time, the war with Vietnam wasn't going so well, and the people of America were just a little bit pissed off with their government's approach to the whole thing. So, what is the best way to stop people being all up in your face? Misdirection. You take people's minds off what is happening and then give them something else to look at and to focus on. Plus, at the time, Russia was also winning the space race, and this scared the hell out of America. So, to kill two birds with one stone, they decided to pull off the biggest hoax in the history of hoaxes ever, and fake the whole thing in order to win the space race, and take people's minds off the whole Vietnam incident. Because if they did that, it would mean billions of revenue for future businesses and giving Russia a big fuck you sign. So you've got to ask yourself, why has America or any other country never been back to the moon? Because the location would be so strategic that the benefits would be enormous. Okay, let's face it, if you look at America as a nation, it's been involved in nearly every major conflict since World War II, and it often presents itself as a saviour rather than an invader.
Tonight I want to talk to you on a subject of deep concern to all Americans and to many people in all parts of the world, the war in Vietnam.
Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait.
At 7 o'clock this evening, Eastern Time, air and naval forces of the United States launched a series of strikes against the headquarters to minimize casualties among the Libyan people.
Earlier today, I ordered American forces to strike Iraq.
My fellow Americans, tonight I want to talk to you about Syria.
Last night, at my direction, the United States military successfully executed a flawless precision strike.
But why would a nation that has more technical advancements and more military bases across the world than any other country not want one in prime position for a military strike? Well, we're now in the year 2020 and our technology has advanced so much since 1969, you'd think we'd have people living on the moon, in moon bases. But instead, the US are still living off the kudos from over 50 years ago. I mean, why spend all that money to go back to the moon when you're still pulling in millions of dollars every year from tourists and merchandise? With this, I thought I'd go onto the streets of Manchester to ask the public their thoughts on whether the US did or didn't land on the moon in 1969. Do you believe that we landed on the moon in 1969?
I think so, yes.
Yes.
I think we did, yes.
I don't think we did.
I believe we definitely did.
I think we probably did, yes.
Oh. Do you know they might have faked it?
I believe they did. Yeah.
Well, at the time I believed it because I watched it. I'm that old.
Yeah,
but now, on hindsight, I really don't know.
I don't know. There's pictures and all that kind of stuff. I don't believe in the conspiracy type of things. So I just think that, yeah.
I think it was faked. Yeah, there'd be something to sort of give you evidence to say that it has landed and there's some sort of evidence on the ground and stuff. Like I said, when I look at the pictures and stuff, you just think to yourself, it's a bit sceptical. Is it like on a green screen or something like that? For me, unless you put me in a rocket and take me up there, then maybe a bit more convinced, but not at the moment, no, not really.
I think it was definitely real, and I think the people that think it was a fake need to grow up and get a life.
I followed it all the way through on TV, on the apps, and both me and my friends has looked at it and the evidence is overwhelming that they did land on the moon.
What reason?
Because they've never gone back.
Compete with the Russians, who had just put someone in space.
You're thinking that when it's coming to land, it's glided in, is that right?
Not glided is too strong a word, but it was actually using retro rockets. And I think they had about 13 seconds of spare fuel before they landed. It was very near the sort of line for them crashing, because I believe that Armstrong took control of the craft and moved from what was perceived to be their landing place, because when they were there, it was too rocky, so he took control and they used more fuel than what they were bargaining for.
So, as with a lot of things in life, there's those that believe in NASA's version of events, and those that just think the whole thing was just made up. But I suppose that's just how life is. However, since this is only a mini episode of Curiosity, I can't go too deep into the whole situation. But I would be interested to know your thoughts on the whole thing. Did we or didn't we land on the moon in 1969? Or was the technology just not there and it was all fake to direct the public's attention from other things that were going on at the time? Hang on, who the hell moved that camera if they've just taken off? Bit strange. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching this mini episode of Curiosity.